Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raw Dogs, a Bodyslam.net post show. I am, as always, your host, Nick Perkins, joined, as always, by JPJ Loves Gaming. And I know what you're thinking. I know what everybody is thinking. It's the question that's been on everybody's mind for at least the last 53 seconds. Why isn't Nick wearing a suit?
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. It's because, thanks to our dear friend JPJ, I actually bought a PlayStation 5 and I bought the newest WWE 2K25 game, and I've been playing it all the last 3 days. I've been playing it. I haven't eaten, I haven't slept, I've barely showered, and all I've worn is my vintage NWO t-shirt and my super cool Snape cardigan. So comfort is more important. I've been battling the cold as well, so it's been a great weekend for video games. We'll get into WWE 2K25 a little bit later on, but before all that, JPJ, how are you, my friend?
I am doing well. I've also played a lot of WWE 2K25 this past weekend. It's been a lot of fun, that game. It's a good one. But yeah, we're doing good, man. Excited to talk about this Raw. I thought the end of this Raw, again, like the main events have been killing it lately.
Sure.
And I thought that this was another one tonight where it was the storyline, the crowd, obviously being an MSG was, it felt like a big deal, as it should. Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's been really fun. We will get into the main event, of course. Before we get into all of that, I don't know if you know this, JPJ. We have a sponsor.
I love that. I did kind of hear about this. Our very
first sponsor. It is courtesy of the Shroom Bar. And since this is our first week, I'm just going to kind of read it, but we'll make it sound more natural. But we wanted to at least tell you guys about the Shroom Bar, because this week's podcast is sponsored by Shroom Bar, the protein mushroom bar. It's made up of not psychedelics, but 4 powerful mushroom adaptogens. It has lion's mane, which sounds cool, which that increases focus, memory, and neuroplasticity, making it easier to form new patterns. And it's easier to form new patterns and learn new things, which I didn't know what neuroplasticity meant, but now I do. So that's exciting. So next time you're trying to learn that new move in pro wrestling, it'll actually stick in your head rather than forgetting it immediately. It's also got cordyceps. And that increases your VO2 max, blood flow, and overall endurance. So if you're into things where your blood is flowing and you like to show a little bit of endurance, if you know what I mean, this is the shroom for you. It also has reishi. I don't know. We'll figure it out for next week. But that decreases stress, which my stress has been super decreased these last few days. So we'll see how much that can do for me in the future. And finally, it's got turkey tail, which boosts all of your immune system. We all know that y'all need that on those nasty-ass gym mats. So wrestlers, this is the shroom for you. On top of all of that, it's got 12 grams of protein. That's why they call it the protein mushroom bar. So go to eatshroombar.com and use code BODYSLAM at checkout for 25% off your first order. That is eatshroombar.com, code BODYSLAM. JPJ, this might be too personal, but we're just friends here. Nobody's watching but us. You ever done some shrooms before?
Yeah, I might have dabbled. It might have been a few times. Might have had a couple fun weekends.
What's that like for you? What's that experience like?
I don't remember much of them, but I know they were a good time. I know I enjoyed myself.
If you want to enjoy yourself, go to eatshroombar.com.
You listed off all those mushrooms do in that bar, and it sounds like that's good stuff that we all want. We all want less stress.
Yeah.
We all want protein is good for you. That you want a good protein-filled diet. Less stress, more endurance. You don't feel just kind of It feels like it clears you out mentally and physically. I mean, I feel like most of us could probably use that nowadays. Life is fast, man. There's so much stuff going on all the time. To be more focused, to feel better on a regular basis. I mean, that's what
Better
you want to do.
endurance and blood
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah, 100%. That's what you want, man. So check them out. EatShroomBar.com, y'all.
EatShroomBar.com. I personally have never done shrooms, but I've been considering it, which is how we found out about the Shroom Bar. So for my first mushroom intake, I'm not going to say that we'll film it because that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, that might not go well.
I will report.
You want to be very clear-headed.
Yeah.
When you head down that path, my friend, let me tell you.
Yes. Well, I'll work on that.
Either, have your list of, movies or books, or like have your friends that you trust and, get after it. Have a good 18 hours, That's
keep my address written on my arm just in case I get lost.
Just in case.
But it's kind of interesting because shrooms, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about shrooms, but they kind of have this the stigma about them. They're like, oh, mushrooms, they're drugs, they're bad. But all of this stuff that the Shroom Bar offers, like you said, that's really good stuff. You're not just doing shrooms to get high. You're doing it to make your life better, to make your focus better, to make your days better. You can do all that at EatShroomBar.com.
Love it.
Well, Jay, before we get into Raw, I do want to talk about WWE 2K25. We talked about it last week. It was not something I had planned on getting involved in. I had a PlayStation 4, and I didn't think that 2K25 would be that different than 2K24, but you got me excited. Talking about it made me really excited. I wanted to check out the island. I found out that the island was only available on next-gen consoles. So if I wanted to go to the island, I couldn't do it with PS4. So I made the decision, thanks to all these sponsored ads that we get to read. I spent a little bit of my money, some of Bodyslam's money, and I bought myself a PS5. And the very first game I bought, I downloaded it, WWE 2K25. And it has been a blast. It was such a good decision to make. I'll get into my experience with it, but you got it too. So what are your overall impressions so far?
I think so far so good. There were a couple bugs right off the top. A lot of I had trouble getting onto the island the first day or so. Sure. But once they kind of released the patches to kind of fix that and stuff, I thought it was I think it's great. Like, I never play my faction. Like, that's a mode that I very rarely play.
Yeah.
But I went on live. I streamed live Thursday night at midnight, like when it came out, when it launched.
Cool.
And I played for a few hours, and the only thing that was really working really well was my faction.
Okay.
And I just dove in and messed around, and I ended up playing it for I'm on the East Coast, mind you.
Sure.
And I ended up playing it at literally till 4 a.m. And I was like, awesome. Wow, I never play this mode, but this is a lot of fun. And then I've kind of dabbled on, I also dabbled on the island today for the first time for a couple hours. That seems like it feels like this one might be just kind of like the base to understand what they can do. And the next, it could grow into this really, really immersive, cool thing. But so far, so good. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm loving it. And I haven't finished the showcase mode, but I'm I've done a good chunk of the showcase mode. That's been really good with all the history of the bloodline stuff and going way back to Yokozuna and Peter Maivia. Getting to play those guys is kind of cool because you just don't often. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, you don't often have the head shrinkers in action.
Oh my god, I loved it. I was yeah, and I loved even though it was a terrible WrestleMania, probably the worst ever maybe, but having Caesar's Palace in the game in WrestleMania 9, because I remember being a kid when that happened, and I didn't know any better of whether it was a good or bad show at the age I was when that happened. I was too little, but I remember the venue and being like, whoa, it's light out and they're outside and it's yellow and bright and I remember the visual of the venue, even though WrestleMania is ass. But I remember the visual, and it was cool that was in the game.
It was cool. So I'm the type of person that I like to kind of get all of the have-to stuff done before I get into the get-to stuff. So showcase mode was the very first thing I did. I sailed through it, spent a few hours going through it. Like you said, you get to fight as Yokozuna, as not just The Rock, but Rocky Maivia. You get to fight as the Head Shrinkers and 3-minute warning. It was so much fun. And like you said, like Yokozuna was super fun because I remember playing, I don't know if you ever played WWF Raw on Super Nintendo.
Of course.
That was my favorite game because that's all we had for games when you and I were kids was WWF Raw. Very different than video games nowadays. But I would always play as Yokozuna because I thought the bonsai drop was the coolest move. So it's been fun to be able to kind of play him on finally like the next generation of video games. And Yokozuna, man.
Like, I loved him. I even loved him when I was a kid and he was like the bad guy. I even loved, maybe it was because I grew up as a fat kid. I don't know. But I loved him. I always kind of root for the chubby guys, so it probably was that.
Did you think that he was Japanese instead of Samoan?
When I was younger, 100%. 100% was just like, oh yeah, that's a sumo wrestler. That's a Japanese sumo wrestler. Then I grew up, and as I got older, I was like, no, that's a Samoan guy.
Right.
But it worked. It worked. He held that title for almost a year straight.
Yeah, his feud with The Undertaker was one of my favorite little feuds of '94.
Yeah, that casket match they had in '94, where The Undertaker then floated up out of the casket, like up to the. I remember that as being a kid. I'm like, oh my god, he's floating through the air. Wow. Couldn't believe it. Yeah, it was a good time.
Man, there was nothing like being a WWF fan in the mid '90s.
Yeah,
right?
And especially when you're like even now, like when you're a kid, like you believe this stuff.
All right.
You know what I mean? So like I'm seeing the casket explode and the Undertaker floating to the heavens, really. And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my god, he's floating!" And like I fully believe it because
he's a superhero.
Yeah, I'm like 8 years old. I don't know any better, and like I fully believe it. And I'm like, you think of it now, and you're like, man, what a time just being a kid. What a time! Just like
the Clown was great when you were a kid.
He started off as a bad guy, though.
Yeah, evil, scary Doink was phenomenal.
He was creepy. And then he turned into a good guy, and it was like, hell yeah. And then he got Dink, and then it was just like, all right,
everybody should have a literal version of themselves. Yeah. So you mentioned my faction. I also have no idea what that is. I know it like you get cards and you do things. I'm not smart enough or cool enough or savvy enough to know what I'm doing. So explain that kind of in layman's terms, what my faction actually is.
So it's just you create a faction and it's all card collecting based. And so you have to basically like earn packs by completing matches, completing quests, completing objectives. And you have to earn points, not VC, but you have to earn points that you can buy packs with the points. And then that's how you kind of load up your team. And then there's different, so like, I started off with like, I don't know, there's different tiers. So there's a bronze level, which is like the low level. Then there's emerald, then there's emerald, the green emerald, that's the middle level, and then sapphire. And then it goes above that. But those are like the 3 ones you start with. And you just earn things. So like they have weekly towers where you have to win like 5 matches in a tower. And when you win that whole thing, you get a card. And so it's just really like, it would be like, it's their version of like what, Ultimate Team in the EA sports games are like you're playing online against you don't necessarily have to play against other people. There's plenty of offline online modes, if that makes sense, where you play the computer. But it's basically that you have tasks, you have weekly, daily, season long objectives. When you check them off, you either earn cards or you earn the points in the game to buy packs that have good cards, and you collect cards and things like that.
What are the cards? What is the significance of them? Like why?
That's your faction.
Okay.
So like you unlock wrestler cards, and those end up being part of your faction. So you want to unlock as many cards as possible, so you have options of like who to wrestle with when you're going to the challenges. And then you have like bonus cards. So there's manager cards. Like right now, my manager is China. She's my manager in the faction. Cool. And then you get like bonus, so like cards. You'll be like, all right, like one card will be like, this wrestler will have extra strength for 10 matches, and you get to assign that to the people on your faction. And your faction consists of, you can have as many cards as you want, because the more cards you collect, the more objectives you beat too, because there are collecting objectives as well. But like you have 4 guys and 4 girls. That's your faction. So you have to go into every different game mode they have, and you have to have 4 active guys and 4 active girls. So obviously, the more cards you unlock, you'll get some good cards that are higher up on the level, and you can just kind of keep building your faction that way and unlocking higher rewards and better cards as you go to kind of build your best faction.
So we've come a long way from just having Diesel versus Yokozuna in a 3-minute match.
Yes, 100%. And some of the objectives are super easy. Like some of them are like, oh, you have to have a match against this person and make sure you taunt them during the match. And so you have a match. Like some of those matches, even when I was playing with just the bronze level cards that I started with, because you don't start with really a good team. They give you like, middle of the road cards kind of. Some of the matches I was winning in like literally less than a minute because my opponent was like a card in the 60s of overalls.
Right.
And it took me 2 hits and they were dead. And then I just kept on going. And it was like, all right, there you go. So,
and you can earn like virtual currencies so you can unlock wrestlers and belts.
Yeah, and then there's a whole store where when you earn the virtual currency by checking off these objectives and completing things, you can go and buy packs, and they have different themes packs. So they have like a Legends pack where you unlock Legends. Then they have like a couple different card art, like different packs that have like different power-ups and different things like that. So
how fun. But
I would say dive in because they kind of give you a good tutorial like as you get in it, and it kind of walks you through everything. And I thought it was pretty extensive. Like the thing, you have to read a lot because it's just kind of Heyman with like words, like he's not speaking to you. It's just kind of like a word box that he's talking to you through. But I thought it was because like I said, I never really played that mode at all because I was like, this isn't for me. But I play card collecting modes in like this Friday, MLB The Show is coming out, and that's my main game that I play every year. Like I love MLB The Show. I'm a huge baseball guy. That's my favorite game every year. And it's coming out on Friday, and they have a card collecting mode, and I play that routinely in all the other sports games, but I never did in WWE, and I just did out of happenstance because none of the other modes were working when it launched. And I was like, holy shit, this is actually a lot of fun, and I've played a little bit of it every day now. So I'm like, I got to do the daily quests. I got to do it to get my stuff, to get cards. And it's very cool. It's very cool.
I think I'm going to become a gamer because this is like I've had a PlayStation and like I've got a PS5 now, but I have a PS4, PS3. I had them. I just never really like would sit down a whole lot to just play. But I did this weekend, and it's just like what a great way to just like turn your brain off and just like have fun. I turn on a podcast and just like dude. Speaking of Paul Heyman, you brought him up. He is kind of your guide in the Bloodline showcase. So he's the one that's guiding you through the matches, giving you the backstory. He's also giving you like a lot of pep talks. He's telling you like how great you are, and this is your chance to right the wrongs, and it's very cool stuff. But there's also towards the end a video where he talks about the history of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. And most of us know the history, but Heyman really, like, especially in light of what we saw tonight, like he really sold that like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are like in a blood feud, like they are wrestling soulmates, and he just really sold their relationship and their feud. And so just in the middle of the night, I tweeted at him and I said, he's like the greatest orator of all time. Even in a video game, he just sold me this match, and now I want to see it. I didn't think anything of it. Most of the time when I tweet something, like 3 people will like it, and then we all move on. But my friend, guess what?
Hell yeah! Did he acknowledge you? Did Paul Heyman acknowledge you?
He acknowledged me. I don't know. You can't really see that, but he quote tweeted my tweet, and he said, "Good morning, at Western Rebel. I concur with your assessment. All false humility aside, GOAT status achieved, mastered, and perfected." And I don't want to say that he was waiting for my acknowledgement to call him the GOAT before he really accepted it.
Yeah.
But that's
what it seems like he was, though. It seems like he was.
That's what you said. Who am I to argue? I'm but a humble video game player. But that was the highlight of my day until right now, being able to talk with you. Let's get into Raw. It was a heck of a show. Kind of a mixed bag as Raw usually is, but I would say more good than bad. We were in New York City tonight, which always makes for a fun, unique atmosphere at Madison Square
MSG
Garden.
too, yeah. I feel like whenever they go to New York, they mainly go to Barclays now.
Yeah.
So when they go to MSG, which that used to be like
when
we were watching in the 90s and late 90s, when they went to Madison Square Garden, it felt like it was like a pay-per-view, even though it was a Raw. Like it was like, oh, this is a big deal. And it felt that way again.
Yeah.
And they made it feel that way again. And a Madison Square Garden crowd is just, it's different, man. You're talking to a guy from Boston, so I don't root or say a lot of nice things about New York.
Sure.
However, tonight's crowd, it felt like a big night, and the crowd showed up like it was a big night. There were celebrities there. It was just, it was a big night feel, and I thought they delivered for the most part. There was some stuff that was kind of but for the most part, they knocked it out of the park, I think.
For instance, so we the first match of the night was Jey Uso versus Grayson Waller. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really have any interest in this match. We kind of knew how it was gonna go, and it did. Jey Uso beat him in like 9 minutes, and then he got attacked by Waller in theory, and then eventually, as you might expect, Gunther appeared, choked Jey out, put him in the sleeper hold, and then kind of posed on top of him with his foot on it. We've still got like a month and a week or so until WrestleMania. What do you think needs to happen for this feud between Gunther and Jey Uso to kind of get kicked up a notch? It's not doing it for me right now.
Well, I think they're in. I think my thing with this is like, I think the match at WrestleMania is going to be good. I think it's going to be fine. I think Jay's going to get crowned, and that moment at WrestleMania is going to be a big moment.
Sure.
But I don't know what more you can tell about this story, unless Gunther takes it to a personal level of somehow. Like, I don't think you could. What other angle could they do right now that would be a different story than, oh, Jay can't beat Gunther, and everybody now kind of believes, or a lot of people believe, that he can't beat Gunther. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, for me, again, like, to me, this is just, hey, let's get Jay a couple wins back to back, a win versus Waller this week. He's fighting Theory next week. He's going to beat Theory. So it gives him a little bit of momentum, two big wins, but 2 wins on the way to Mania. And then I think you got to, personally, I feel like Jey Uso needs to beat the shit out of Gunther one night.
At least once, right?
Just he has to beat the crap out of him, because Gunther, it feels like, is getting the one up on Jay week after week after week. And like, again, like you said, I think we still have 5 more Raws. I think 5 more Raws. Are we going to do this every single week for another? Like, at some point, Jay needs to one up Gunther, so Gunther doesn't feel as confident as Gunther feels, because right now Gunther is not taking Jay seriously at all, and that's part of the story, clearly. But I think at some point Jay needs to at least make Gunther question that, and that's at least how I feel. I feel like that's where I'm at. Like, I thought this was fine. I did appreciate Raw starting with a match, instead of a promo,
because a match with Jey Uso, who's always over.
Because I feel like it's been. Maybe I'm just thinking wrong, but I feel like it's been like it's been a while since Raw. It's usually promo that dissolves into a brawl or some sort of confrontation, and then that's a match later or something like that. It was nice that Raw started with the match, but the match itself was fine. It was whatever. It was there. I knew what it was there for. It was a vehicle to get Jay a win and set up Jay versus Theory so Jay can get another win.
Right.
And that's what we got. So it was what it was.
Do you think maybe that is what they're trying to do then, is maybe they do just have Gunther just every week just beat up Jey Uso, like AJ Styles' old catchphrase, beat up John Cena. Maybe that's just what it is, and maybe Gunther doesn't.
I mean, I don't want to jump around, but maybe we can talk about it. But like later on in the night, I'm kind of more intrigued about what's going on with the Alpha Academy and Jey Uso.
Yeah,
because Jay came out and saved them last week when Gunther attacked. He saved them the last couple weeks when Gunther had those great matches with Tozawa and Otis. They didn't come. They didn't come out there to really save him tonight. And then in the back, when Jay was in the doctor's room, you see Alpha Academy come in, and like Otis is like hugging him. He kisses him on the cheek, and he says, "Sorry, we weren't out there. Like it won't happen again. Like we have your back." And when they left, Jay kind of gave like a side eye look.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was him being like, I took that as him saying like, "Where's my family?" That's how I took that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I appreciate what they're doing. Like, I appreciate them being nice, but like, why isn't that like, where are my people?
Yeah. Starting to get a little lonely, you think?
Yeah. And so maybe that's part of the story they're going to tell a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, where's Jimmy? Obviously, we saw Sammy get taken out by KO, but like, Roman, I don't want to, somebody came back at the main event tonight. Why didn't he come back and help his friggin' brother and cousin getting the shit kicked out of him?
Yeah, that's a fair. Maybe he just arrived late,
bro. You're in the building, bro. Like that's your blood relative getting his shit kicked in for like the third week in a row. You're cool with watching that from the back?
Roman might. They kind of have a complicated relationship.
No, I know, and I get it. I'm a wrestling fan. I grew up in it. Like I understand why it didn't happen, but you know what I mean? When you think of it that way, it's like, huh?
Logically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
well, I didn't take it exactly the way you took it. I took it as just weird vibes between Jey Uso and the Alpha Academy. I don't know though, because you're not going to turn Jey heel. You shouldn't turn like Otis.
No.
So I don't know. I don't know what it was, but like you said, I'm more interested in that than I am between Jay and Gunther. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of things I am not interested in, Logan Paul made his entrance. And boy, oh boy, did people not like Logan Paul.
Which is perfect because people, I feel like that part of it I am enjoying. He's getting the Dom heat.
He is. But people legitimately, I think, do like Dominic. I think when people are booing Logan Paul, it's what they used to call it X-Pac heat, which was crazy because X-Pac was awesome. But
Dom gets the heat he does now out of respect.
Yeah.
When he first started, he was getting legitimate heat like Logan Paul is getting. Like he was getting go away, X-Pac, go away heat. You're really bad, Dom. We don't like you. But now everybody has seen Dom grow into a very good. He's good at this. Yeah. So now he still gets that heat, but that heat is out of complete respect.
Yeah. It's like ironic heat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we're supposed to do this, and we know that you've grown into pretty good. So like we're gonna keep doing this, but we like you now. Which means down the line, when it happens, Dom's going to be a good babyface.
Oh, yeah.
The crowd is going to get behind him big time.
Oh, yeah. I think probably,
could be
they
soon.
would be ready to cheer him, ASAP.
Like, if it ends up being Dom versus Finn at some point, or even Mania, well, however they're doing it, because the friction that's been there, like, Dom's going to be the overwhelming babyface in that matchup. Like, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the crowd's going to be ready to cheer him.
Crowd, I don't think will ever be ready to cheer Logan Paul. He did spot a wrestling fan wearing an I Hate Logan Paul shirt that is conveniently available on WWE.com, which
lovely.
Shocking. I tweeted this earlier. Don't buy the shirt. Like I know the impulse is there because
no
hate
pun
Logan
intended.
Paul, but if you buy the shirt, you get some of the proceeds.
Yeah, I was gonna say that merch goes to him. That's his shirt. So.
It's a genius move. Like
it very much is.
Smart
it
move,
really is.
But don't do it because
we don't like. We've made our personal feelings about this guy made here, but I'm not going to knock him and say that he's not a good businessman.
Yeah, genius.
You know what I mean? Like he knows what he's doing.
Right.
So it is what it is. But that is a genius move, that shirt, because everybody's going to see that and go, "Oh hell yeah, I hate Logan Paul." But in reality, that is his shirt. He's going to get the royalties when you buy that shirt. So he's again, personally is different. I'm just talking about what I see on the screen.
Sure.
What I see on the screen is a guy who gets it.
Yeah.
And he knows the crowd hates him, and he is leaning heavy into it, and it's working for him. It's working.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet, I think today or yesterday, that kind of was bagging on Logan Paul a little bit and called him a spot monkey. Do you think that he is just somebody that does big moves, or do you think he can tell a good story with his matches?
I think he's a lot better at the second part now. I think at first, when he was still clearly learning, but a big enough star to get those big moments, I think he was kind of the big spot guy. But, when you remember when he first came in, he was tag teaming with The Miz, and he was doing stuff like that where he only needed to do the one or two big things because, whatever. I feel like when he got that opportunity with Roman in the main event, I think, at least from a performance standpoint, that's where now I was kind of like, okay. I was like, he's good. Like he's good at this. And from everything you hear, when he's kind of told them like, hey, I want to be full time here, like when they announced he was coming back to Raw full time, from everything you hear, he is like super committed to it. Like he's learning, he's putting in the work, he's very committed. And whether I hate the guy or whatever personally, like I at least appreciate that, because there are plenty of celebrities that make the amount of money that he does at that level where they would just coast in it. Think about all the celebrities back in the day that used to come in and like how bad it was a lot of the times. And then you see guys like Bad Bunny. Yes. And then you see guys like Bad Bunny and Logan these last couple of years, and you're like, okay, these guys are at least like, they're training, they're learning, they want to do well. And that I can at least appreciate, even though I do not appreciate him as a human.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. We're both pretty good at compartmentalizing. So that's good. But so Logan Paul said that Rey Mysterio or AJ Styles was supposed to call him out. He wanted to beat him to the punch, talked a little bit of smack. Once again, which you and I talked about last week, we like that this is happening. He mentioned the Cody Rhodes, John Cena Rock situation. And like we said, everybody kind of mentioning it really puts over how big of a deal it is. So I like that. Logan Paul said that Cena finally realized that nice guys don't finish last, which is true. And usually if you're a nice guy and you're saying nice guys finish last, you're probably not a nice guy. So that's just something I've learned in college. But eventually, Logan Paul pointed out comedian Andrew Schultz, who had one heck of a mustache going on.
Sure did.
He said real recognizes real. Schultz didn't really like him a whole lot. Logan kind of bullied him, but eventually AJ Styles came out, dropped Paul with a punch, kind of took him out, and it seems like kind of kicked this feud into the next gear for WrestleMania. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I think this was, if they are going the one-on-one route for Logan Paul, I think AJ Styles, because of what happened in the Rumble, was one of the clear options. And I'm good with this. I'm good with this with how athletic both those guys are. Like this, it should be good. It should be a good matchup at Mania. AJ, there's potential that this is AJ, maybe his last Mania. With his contract situation, we don't really know. So I feel like AJ is going to want to have a good one. And I feel like the athleticness of Logan Paul, they can really plan a few badass spots if they perform them right. And I think it'll be good. And I would expect AJ to win, I would hope. Unless he's, I would hope. But I thought this was fine. And I thought, I'm not a big fan of the Andrew Schultz guy, like his comedy. There's some stuff he does that's funny, but overall, I'm not huge on him. But I thought this was well done. I thought he played the part very well. He felt comfortable when he was talking. You could tell that he was like in it, like, again, like he lived up to the moment, like he was very much ready to go. And I was doing a watch along, and I even said, I'm like, he seemed, right before it happened, I go, he seems like the kind of guy that would take a punch. Like if Logan hit him, like he would take the bump. Sure. And then we saw what we saw, and that all happened. And again, he has a big special that just came out on Netflix. So it was really like an advertisement for Netflix. Right. Hey, go watch this guy's special while he did this segment on Raw. So
I wish they would have done. I wish they would have done John Mulaney. He's got a new show
he's got that new thing coming out Wednesday, right?
Yeah, love it. He's going to interview celebrities live.
Yes.
Do you like John Mulaney?
I do. I know he's got kind of, a checkered past as well. He had obviously some things, but he's a very funny man, John Mulaney. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he is one of my favorites. So maybe, I don't know, who knows? Maybe we'll see him on an episode of Raw sometime in the near future. But yeah, man, I'm good with AJ versus Logan Paul. I'd rather see like AJ versus Finn Balor, but for a match for both of these guys, I think it's a pretty good fit. AJ gets the rub of celebrity, so he'll get some attention from that. People can see how good AJ Styles is. And by the way, can you believe that AJ Styles has been in WWE for 11 years?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
That's great. No, not 11 years quite. A little bit less than that. But
yeah, no, it was 2016?
16.
No,
So,
almost 10 years. He's been there like 9 years, which is still a long time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a long time. It's a long
Yeah.
time. Who would have
Do you
thought?
think that we'll see him go to Impact for a match or two?
I think it would be a cool thing if he went back and had one match.
Yeah.
Or at least an appearance, at the very least, an appearance.
Hall of
But
Fame.
he was on the Chris Van Vliet podcast. I think last week or the week before. It was a very good interview, long form, obviously. And he was asked that by Van Vliet, and he said he would love to. He said, "Oh, if it made sense, like 100%, I would go back for at least like one last appearance, at least."
Who would you have him wrestle if he did go back for a match?
I mean, listen, I would love him to fight Nemeth. I think him versus Dolph would be very good. I think him versus, if you wanted to do like a Santana, that'd be a good match. You could do the Joe Hendry if you wanted.
Yeah, that'd be a big one.
There's a few people I think would work, but I feel like if I was picking just for the like how good the match would be, I think him versus Nemeth, him versus Dolph would be a real good one.
Yeah. Did they wrestle in WWE?
I assume.
They had to, right?
Yeah, I would have assumed. They were like on a throwaway Raw, just kind of like a match. I assume.
Right. Well, speaking of great wrestling, we got the New Day taking on Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee in a tornado tag match. Very good match. Like, we knew it would be good, but it really, really turned out.
I love a tornado tag match. I think it's a stipulation that is not used enough.
Underutilized. Yeah.
Yes. I love a tornado tag. I thought this was very good. Especially when they kind of came back from commercial in the second half to the finish of this match and everything we saw happen at the end with whoever that masked individual was.
I have no idea.
A lot of people were saying it was Chad Gable, but I mean, we found it wasn't.
He said
it wasn't.
So.
But yeah, I thought this match was very good. I also love the matching gear on Dragon Lee and Rey.
That was fun.
The matching colored masks and gear was a nice touch from them. I thought Dragon Lee was awesome in this match. That's a guy I feel like they've started and stopped with him a few times. Yeah. That's a guy after Mania, they need to get behind that guy because I think that guy is a big time luchador that can be a star in that guy. He's very good.
Give me the Rey Fenix and Penta taking on Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee match.
Yeah.
Inject that into my veins.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all for it. And, New Day picks up the big win, which I think was the right decision because I do feel like whenever we get to it, maybe at WrestleMania, I do feel like New Day should take those belts from the War Raiders. I feel like New Day, as the heels, should be tag team champions again sooner than later.
Sure.
And then you can have whatever next team is going to be the team kind of go beat the big bad New Day kind of thing like that. I feel like that's probably what you do. And it could be the Lucha Brothers. If Rey Fenix shows up, I think that would be a very good spot. I think Mania is too soon for that to happen. But at the same time, I feel like that's a big, if you want to get that to SummerSlam, New Day as the champs against the Lucha Brothers, let's fucking go. That's a huge match.
Legends and future greats indeed.
Yes.
So you mentioned this mysterious masked man kind of got involved. Definitely not Chad Gable. So we'll see how that turns out.
He did do the gracias.
Right.
Which made everyone think it was Chad Gable.
How do you say shush in Spanish?
Oh God, you're asking the wrong guy. Yeah, shoosh. I think it's probably the same. Yeah,
that's borderline racist. Anyway, then we went backstage. Finn Balor was talking with Dominic Mysterio about Braun Breaker, and Dom revealed that he got Finn a match with Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. What do you think is that about? Is that kind of a setup, or does Dom actually believe in Finn Balor?
I think Finn was actually grateful to Dom in this moment, but I don't think Finn. Listen, they're going out of their way to make Finn happy, and Finn is still being a miserable prick. So at this point, I don't think there's anything they can do to make Finn happy. And I think maybe next week, could be the end of Finn in the Judgment Day.
Yeah. Quite
or maybe
possible.
like he loses next week and then the next whatever. Because I do feel like we're leaning. Finn could definitely be inserted if they do a multi-man match for the IC title at Mania. But I almost think we've been kind of low-key pushing to a thing where it's Finn versus Dom.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania, if they have enough room for it, which it's a 2-night card, they should.
And you think that Dom would be the babyface in that match?
Yeah, kinda.
Okay.
Well, maybe not by design.
Yeah, heel versus heel, but
that obviously, if they, I see the way that I see it with these two and the way their characters are going right now. I feel like Finn is the one that is being the heel between them two. They're both heels in the universe of WWE, but I feel like in this specific story, Finn has been being a jerk. Here comes my cat. Just drop kick that door wide open. There he is. But Finn has been being a jerk for months. Hey, bud. How you doing? Yeah, we're talking.
Aw.
What's going on, man?
Cute. Well, speaking of jerks, Cody Rhodes acknowledged the biggest jerk in his life right now, John Cena. It was a good promo. It felt very kind of basic to me. Like there's no new information. He did call him, what do you call him, a goddamn moron?
Moron, he said.
Yeah, so that was good. Love a good swear word. But what do you think of Cody's promo on John Cena and everything going on?
Look, I thought it was fine. Cody can cut a good promo, whether it's like a real top of the notch one or even like a more basic one like this. He just gets so much emotion by it, and the crowd eats every word of Cody's. Like he's just so over that it works for Cody. I think we're at the point now where you do one of the 2 to 3 best angles and heel turns you do ever, and things like that. And it's been 2 straight weeks and we haven't heard from John Cena.
Yeah.
But now I know he's going to be on SmackDown on Friday.
All right.
So it's happening this week and it's an international crowd. I just think the atmosphere is going to be insane these next few weeks. But at the same time, now we've heard from Cody 3 different times.
Yeah.
About what happened. And it's like, okay.
Logan Paul about what happened.
Yeah. Like that is another thing though. And I think we talked about it briefly. I do love how the other characters on the show are referencing the Cena thing.
Yeah.
All the time. Like it's like that big of a deal that it's not just that standalone story. Like the other wrestlers that are not even involved are like, man, John Cena, like unbelievable what John Cena did. Yeah. I think that's a great touch. It is. Yeah, I thought this promo was fine. Cody can cut a good promo no matter the subject matter.
Yeah.
I just really want to hear from John Cena.
Which we will, you said on SmackDown, but then next Monday, Cody Rhodes and John Cena will be under the same roof. They will, I assume, have a segment together. That seems to be where that was leading, which is going to be great, especially is it Germany? That's going to be...
next Monday, they're in Belgium. Brussels, Belgium. Right. So Friday night, they're in Barcelona, Spain on Friday. And then Monday, they're in Brussels, Belgium.
And is there a Saturday night main event coming up? Is that?
Well, they announced that there is potentially one happening in December at the end of the year in Boston, which I assume that would be John Cena's last match.
Yeah.
Because they usually, I don't think they're going to do December pay-per-views because of the holidays.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
I feel like that should be Cena's last match.
I think that would be great. Here's something I wanted to talk with you about because I've heard some discourse. Somebody had a really good point that like when comparing the John Cena heel turn to people like Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold Steve Austin, they said that fans like they reacted loudly and well, but fans were more excited that they can boo Cena than actually being upset that John Cena turned heel. Does that actually diminish John Cena as a heel? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do you?
I think it's an interesting point because like people like you and me, we've been waiting for John Cena to turn heel for 20 years. And now that he had, like, we'll play along and we'll suspend our disbelief, but inside, like, we're psyched that we get to see this John Cena.
Yeah, I'm excited that I get to see a different iteration of him at least before he goes.
So the point is, should we be excited or shouldn't we be like mad and angry and oh, how dare you? You get like the
I get it. But I think the crowd and I think all like if I was live and Cena came out, I would boo John Cena.
Yeah, but that's you playing along because you know like that's your role.
Yeah,
the Hulk Hogan turn like broke people's hearts, right?
I think there are a lot of people, younger people and older people that grew up with John Cena, like literally being their hero. That I think they're kind of getting a little bit of both. The funny thing for me now is right, like tonight when Cody was cutting this promo, we heard for the first time since Cena's kind of been back, we heard the "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chant.
Oh, yeah,
and I said, you know what's funny is it's been a handful of years since we've seen that match, but now it's opposite sides.
Yeah,
the people who used to say "Let's go Cena" are saying Cena sucks.
Right.
And the people who used to say Cena sucks are saying "Let's go Cena."
Yeah.
So it's the same vibe, but it's a different vibe.
Yeah, we're doing it ironically.
It's the other way around. So I think that'll be kind of and for the record, don't compare that. Like again, I know we weren't doing that. How I feel about John Cena as a person dwarfs how I feel about Hulk Hogan as a person.
Sure.
Not even in the same ballpark.
Oh yeah.
Not even in the same ballpark of a heel. That Hogan heel turn added a decade to Hogan's career.
Yeah.
And that Hogan heel turn led to the Attitude Era. It led to the shirt that you're wearing right now. It led to WCW being relevant because they were not relevant at the time. Like they were there and they were good, but they were not even, that heel turn changed professional wrestling. Now, John Cena's heel turn was a thing of beauty, and it will be remembered forever and shown forever. But we know it's his last year. We know we have a finite amount of time with however they do this. It's just a different thing. It's a whole different thing.
That's a really good point. I think everybody's go-to was to compare it to Hulk Hogan just because you have this
which makes sense.
Beloved baby face. Like it does make sense. But I compare it much more to when Austin turned heel at WrestleMania 17 and aligned with Vince McMahon. The reasons for doing it are pretty similar. And granted, like after that match, the Austin stuff wasn't super great. It did lead to some interesting, funny moments, I would argue.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, like Austin says he regretted doing it, blah, blah, blah. But that kind of seems more like the John Cena turn to me, a guy who's so desperate to be the champion that he would sign a deal with the proverbial devil, who in this case is The Rock.
Yep, I agree. I fully agree.
Yeah, good. Well, so we should talk about it. You brought it up. Next week, Raw is in Belgium. So it's going to air at 3 p.m. Eastern, which I think you're Eastern time, right?
I am.
I'm Mountain, so that's like 1 o'clock my time. Do you want to do a show after it, or do we want to do it later in the night, or what do your days look like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm down. I assume. As of right now, obviously things can change with life and like things like that, but I assume I'm going to try to be watching these shows live.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm watching the shows live, I would be down to do the reacts afterwards like we normally do, if obviously that works for you too.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into it. I think a Raw in the middle of the day would be that's going to be fun.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's 3 p.m. next week. The week after is 4 p.m. And then the week after is 3 p.m. Wow. So it's like 1 week they're somewhere else where it's, because I think they go to Italy and then they go somewhere else and then they end in London for a couple shows. I think the Raw and SmackDown are both in London that last week, like before Mania kind of thing.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah. Well, that's going to be a weird few weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. Yeah, for sure.
It'll be fun. I love watching wrestling in the middle of the afternoon.
Oh my God, yeah.
it feels like the good old days when Survivor Series was on like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's great.
100%. 100%. I fully agree.
So Bayley took on Raquel Rodriguez, and in a move that surprised me, but maybe it shouldn't, Raquel actually beat Bayley. Obviously, there was some help from Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio, but is Bayley kind of getting pushed to the wayside a little bit?
I don't think so. Well, yes, I think she's. I happen to think by the time they get to WrestleMania, Bayley's going to be involved in this IC title picture.
Yeah.
But I think clearly we're getting. I think they're still going to go with Roxanne and Bayley somehow, or some form of whatever. But I think they want to get Lyra another defense, and I feel like her beating Raquel is probably an easier way to do that than her going against Bayley. I think obviously if she beat Bayley, that would be a great victory, but I don't know if they want Bayley doing that before May. I somehow think that Roxanne Perez is going to be somewhat involved in this IC title picture, whether she's getting a match, a multi-woman match for it at Mania, or she wins it shortly after Mania. I don't know. I just feel like they're going the Bayley Roxanne route somehow towards Mania.
Yeah.
But I was shocked as well that Bayley lost this match. But again, like I said, I just think they want to get Lyra another title defense win and to look good. Yeah. I feel like Raquel's the easier way to go, probably.
It's a really good point. And speaking of the women, let's cut to, we also got another segment with Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and Io Sky. And I thought this was great. I
loved it.
The chemistry between Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, as always, was great. But when Rhea Ripley like pushed Io Sky's face out of the way, I out loud said, "Oh shit."
Yeah, the disrespect, really.
Yeah.
And then Bianca does it right after, and it was like, oh man. And then I thought the way it went down, and then that crowd was going nuts for Io, man.
Yeah.
You have arguably the two biggest women stars in the last decade in the ring. And at first they weren't even, Io was an afterthought to them. Right. They were not even caring. Yeah. And then they kind of dismissed her like that, very disrespectfully. And to have her kind of end the segment the way it did with the crowd behind her out of all the three, and her being like, hey, I'm the champion here, guys. This is about me. This isn't about you.
Yeah.
I love this segment. I thought it was great. I thought all three of them looked excellent.
Man,
they kind of teased you, right? Like Rhea kind of took a dig at Bianca. Like they took digs at each other, but you can tell they have more in the arsenal for when we truly get, the one-on-one whatever. But I thought that this was one of the better segments, one of the better parts of the show. This ruled.
For the second show in like 3 days, Bianca Belair has absolutely killed it. She was in that segment with Naomi on SmackDown, which was that very easily could have been like corny as fuck and like just super lame and soap opera-y.
Yep.
Naomi, man, oh man, like did such a great job. Bianca held up her end. Jade Cargill got to come and do her spot too. That was one of the best segments of the week, I would say. And
oh my god, that. And women they are, and like the way the way the emotions were during that segment, like we've seen storylines where like sometimes someone will cry or get emotional or things like that, but you don't really see the emotions during talking segments like that a lot. And like they were both crying, they were both like yelling at each other, shaking, like it felt like we were really watching two friends like having a come to Jesus moment. You know what I mean? Like that's what it felt like. And I just thought you don't really see that a lot, where like the emotions are that free flowing and that like adding to the segments, like the way that it did there. I thought that segment on SmackDown was one of the better segments we've seen in more than just a week, like it was really good.
And it was really got to do her version of I did it for The Rock.
Exactly.
I did it for the people.
Yes.
Which was fun. That was probably fun to channel her father-in-law.
Yeah. And I still think that there is just more to this story. On SmackDown, did you notice how Naomi and Bianca were both wearing black? And when Jade came out, her outfit was all white.
Interesting.
I just think there's more to it. The visual they showed tonight on Raw with Bianca Belair, like when they showed her show up in the elevator, like she didn't have the facial expression or the mannerisms of a babyface.
Yeah.
She didn't. And I just think there's more to this still. And it has me intrigued. I'm not going to.
think it does end with Bianca as a heel?
This whole time, I've thought that Bianca has been the mastermind of this, but on Friday, Naomi admitted it. She flat out came out and said, I did it. So that made, that's kind of put me on pause a little bit. But a part of me, even though I'll accept the argument that it would be a bad decision, because I do feel like Bianca is one of the better natural baby faces they have in the whole company.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a part of me being the wrestling fan, just being a wrestling fan for 30 years, I'm like, to me, I got the vibe that Bianca is the mastermind still. I just have that vibe.
And she would be the Triple H to Naomi Rikishi, if I may.
Yes. And then I think after we get to the triple threat, like if Bianca wins the triple threat, which right now that would be my pick. And then she either turns heel or becomes a heel after that. And you have babyface Rhea chasing heel Bianca one-on-one for that.
Oh, yeah.
Money.
I say
money,
they build that
money,
for the
money.
year.
That should be next main. Like, yes. Yeah. Or you start the feud and you have the culmination. Either way, I feel like that's a feud that you kind of prolong over the betterment of the year. And that is main eventing one of the nights of next year's WrestleMania 101.
That's Austin versus The Rock.
Yeah, that's how I feel like this goes somehow.
Well, speaking of main event feuds, we got CM Punk versus Seth Rollins in a steel cage match. It was phenomenal. It was a good escalation from the previous match just a couple months ago on Raw. What do you think of the match before we get into kind of the end story?
Oh, I thought the match was great. This was my favorite CM Punk match since the Hell in a Cell with Drew. He's in these blood feuds, and I know he's not winning a lot of these matches, but he's in these blood feuds
and these cage matches.
And like match Punk. It's just, but they're so good, man. They're so good, and I thought this was great. You could tell. I thought they did a good job of building it up through the night too. Like almost every commercial break they came back from, they were showing a lead-in about it and things like I thought they built to it very well. It felt like a big fight feel, and it lived up to the bill. Like these guys killed it, man. They killed it. And then obviously we're going to talk about the end here, but that added drama and it was a thing of beauty. The end of this was a thing of beauty.
It was a fun match. So match-wise, I agree with you. I thought it was great. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she said, and she's kind of a casual, like I wouldn't even call her a fan yet. She's getting there, but like she knows what's going on. She loves like Rhea Ripley and Cody Rhodes and stuff. But the one thing she said was towards the end of the match, she's like, "Sure, a lot of kickouts," and I thought
there were.
That was a good point, because these guys sometimes wrestlers can over rely on doing their finishers or their opponent's finishers and kicking out. I know that TNA used to do that a lot. Kurt Angle got some slack for it. So I thought that was a pretty astute observation. But otherwise, I think the match was great. And then the end of it, let's talk about it, with Roman Reigns coming out, pulling Seth Rollins out of the cage. I think you and I called it, that some version of this is what was going to happen. We were right, but boy, oh boy, was it well done. Roman Reigns pulls them out.
Yeah. No, go ahead. No. I was going to say, we were right. However, there was a second layer to this that they added at the end that I did not see coming.
Yeah.
I did not see coming. We'll talk about the first thing. I thought they did. I do agree. They were like kicking out of 3 GTSs. Like that, 3 is a lot.
Yeah.
3 is a lot. I would have been okay with 2. Well, you technically only pinned him after the second one, but if you're taking 3 GTSs, CM Punk, I thought the whole end was great. I loved how they did each other's finishes to each other. I love how Seth did the GTS and Punk did the stomp. I thought that was very good. And then I loved Rollins hitting the second rope stomp.
That was a fun one. For just a second, for just a second, and maybe it's because I saw it happen on 2K25. I thought Seth Rollins might climb to the top of the cage and try to do the stomp off of that.
That would have been nuts. That would have been nuts.
Can you imagine that's an injury waiting to happen?
Yeah. But the way they did it, with you hear the roar of the crowd and you're like, oh, it's Roman. Roman only get the reception that it was like, that's Roman. Yeah. And then the camera angle and everything, and they kind of did it in a way where Seth Rollins kind of steals a win, even though it looked, and like, it didn't make Seth, because it looked like Seth was going to win because he just hit the double stomp. He just hit the stomp from the middle row. You're like, oh, this is over now. And then Seth ends up winning, but he ends up winning in a way that keeps him strong, even though he's getting his ass beat by Roman, because he was still going to win the match, most likely.
He won the match before he could win the match.
Exactly. And now you know that Punk, in this moment, before we talk about the second layer, you know that Punk now has a beef.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, I kicked out of everything. Who's to say that I was going to lose that match? You helped him win that match. And so that's Punk's beef. And then you have Roman just decimate Rollins. He hits him with the spear, and then he hits him with a stomp on the outside, Roman giving him kind of a little payback from the Rumble. And then it got to the second layer where I was like, oh, I did not see that coming at all with Heyman.
Yeah, that was an interesting. So we see Roman just beat the crap out of Seth Rollins, and then and I like how they did this, the way they filmed it. They didn't show us what was happening right away. They showed us Roman's reaction to it, and then they cut, and we saw Paul Heyman with CM Punk. Heyman was kind of comforting.
I was going to say, like, comforting him, like, being there for his friend.
Yeah, and so then Reigns. It was like, not on my watch. He entered the ring. He also beat the crap out of CM Punk, kind of pushed Heyman out of the way a little bit, and kind of staked his own claim as like the original tribal chief once again, ending Raw.
Again, I wasn't expecting this layer of the story. In this moment, I wasn't. I thought Roman was gonna. To be honest with you, I thought Roman was gonna come back, and I didn't even think he was gonna acknowledge Punk at all. I thought he was just going to take care of Rollins, and it was going to be built as Roman versus Seth, and then Punk would which I think will obviously still happen. But I thought, Punk would get in via the favor and things like that. But the whole Heyman thing and Roman kind of not even looking angry, but doing that smile that he does, where like he's like that. Once you see Roman give that smile, like you fucked. Like that's like the smile before the gangster kind of makes you. You know what I mean? I thought it was, like you said, the camera work and just the way it was shot, it was perfect. I think it's a perfect way now for this triple threat. They built 2 triple threat matches tonight that are going to be show stealers of the week. Like, it feels like they're going to steal the whole shows at Mania.
Yeah.
And this main event angle was hot as hell, man. And these are 3 massive superstars in Roman, Seth, and Punk. And it's like massive.
Other than Cody and Cena, I would say they're the 3 biggest stars, which is, and you're exactly right, man. This felt like you and I lived through like the Attitude Era where shows would end on a cliffhanger, right? And they leave you wanting more. And that's exactly what happened this week. It was so fun. Last week, we said that the feud between Punk and Seth was so good. Where does that leave Roman? Now we know, and he feels just as pivotal to this feud now as anybody does. And so you and I agree that we haven't been super psyched about the idea of a triple threat match at WrestleMania. Did this closing angle get you more excited for the possibility?
Oh yeah. I'm excited for this match tremendously. I'm excited to see how they go about it, because I thought the way that Punk was being comforted by Heyman, it makes me think, like, are they going to lean into where do Heyman's allegiances align here? They've done it before.
Yeah.
But are they going to lean into that? And I think if anybody was going to be the guy that would get Heyman to maybe turn or not side with Roman, of everybody ever, it's Punk.
Yeah.
Punk is that guy, because Heyman has an affinity for Punk, just like he has an affinity for Roman.
It's not just a business relationship. They're actual friends. It transcends wrestling. So my question then is, do you think instead of Punk's favor being, hey, put me in the match, do you think the favor will be, Heyman, I want you in my corner?
Join me. Yeah, it could be. It could be.
I think that'd be interesting.
Because I think what happened tonight, the way they did everything tonight, I think you can book the triple threat match without Punk even needing the favor.
Yeah.
The way everything went down tonight with Roman being physical with both of them and the way that match ended, I think Punk has a complete justification. He's justified and demanding that he wants both of them at Mania.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a justifiable cause to book that match as constituted. So I do think maybe now you have Roman kind of coming from the angle where he's like questioning Heyman, and then Punk leans in and he goes, all right, well, the triple threat match is already booked. Well, here's my favor. During that match, Paul, you're in my corner.
Yeah.
And I think I think that is an even juicier way to use the favor as opposed to just using the favor to get Punk in the match.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good call by you. I'm going to steal that.
Kind of like instead of a championship, it's kind of like winner gets Paul Heyman, you know, if it's not Seth Rollins, which I think could be great. Do you think that the dynamics and kind of the superstars involved in the match, does that warrant this match being the main event of night one?
I expect it to be. I think anything Roman does is going to be the main event of night one.
Do you think, I was thinking about that because obviously Punk has said like his dream is to main event WrestleMania. He did say that he's kind of, that's not as big of a deal now. Knowing Punk and knowing how much he like supports women wrestlers, part of me thinks that he could be like, you know what, we don't need to main event, give it to the women, and that kind of builds some respect for him there.
It could. If you want to tell me that Rhea, Io, and Bianca are main event in night one, I'm 1,000% in on that as well. That match is going to be incredible as well. And I am, again, I know Bianca ended up winning the Chamber. I'm old school, Nick, and I'm of the belief that if you win a Royal Rumble, you should be main eventing WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I know in the scheme of this WrestleMania, it's not being, it's a championship match, but it's not being booked as one of like the top matches. But in my opinion, I'm sorry, the night one main event should be Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton, because Charlotte Flair won the damn Royal Rumble. And I'm old school. When you win the Royal Rumble, you main event WrestleMania for the championship. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
But now it seems like on night two, we have the guy that won the Elimination Chamber main event and against the world champion. And on night one, we're going to have a triple threat that has no belts.
Yeah.
Which again, it's fine. It's fine. But to me, championship matches should main event cards most of the time. I think AEW proved a point last night where maybe sometimes you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But championship matches more times than not should main event shows. And the Royal Rumble, you should main event WrestleMania. That's what the prize is. You get a championship match at WrestleMania. You should main event the night. Why can't who wins the women's main events night one? Who wins the men's main events night two? It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that hard to do. You know, and then it's on you, WWE, to make those stories why people want those matches to main event. You know, and I think that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. However, I do expect this triple threat with Roman. This is going to main event night one. I would be shocked if it doesn't.
It's hard to disagree with your logic. The only volley I would have is, I agree with you in theory that I think that's perfect. Night one is the women, night two is the men, or vice versa, depending on the story. The only issue I have this year is that I super don't care about Charlotte versus Tiffany Stratton.
That's fair.
You know, and that's not their fault. It's not the women's fault. It's just the story. It's seeing Charlotte in another, like, I feel like we've seen this story before with Charlotte Flair.
Well, I think
it's a good match.
Yeah.
I think
Tiffany needs to go over.
Yeah,
I think
but I don't want to sit through the whole show just say watch Charlotte versus.
That's Tiffany. Fair. I don't know if Tiffany's gonna go over, but I think Tiffany should.
Yeah.
I think it does a whole hell of a lot more for Tiffany Stratton to beat Charlotte than it does for Charlotte to beat Tiffany. I think if you're really positioning Tiffany as a top women's babyface, which clearly over the last month they've made her a downright cookie cutter babyface.
Yeah.
They've given her the rub with Trish and all this stuff. If you really want Tiffany to be at that level, no matter where the match is on the weekend, she needs to beat Charlotte Flair. But I don't know if Triple H will have Charlotte Flair lose. Because, I know we used to crack on the old man when he was running the show, as we should. He was a terrible human. But, he picked Charlotte all the time. Triple H still kind of picks Charlotte all the time, too. So I think that's just kind of a company view of Charlotte, maybe not an individual view of Charlotte.
It's not Charlotte's fault, really.
Yeah, it's not. And look again, whether you like her or not, she's objectively great. She's one of the all-time greats wrestlers ever. At the end of the day, we're talking about Cena breaking the record. At the end of the day, Charlotte is going to have the record.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. And I don't, it is what it is, man. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Raw was what it was, and in our opinion, it was pretty good. Pretty good show.
I think we've been crushing it, bro.
Yeah.
Just like the Raw main events have been crushing it, I think we've been crushing it.
Everybody's been crushing it lately.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and go through some of these comments that we got throughout the night?
Yeah, a little bit earlier. Peggy, when we were talking about AJ, she said Karrion Kross was watching this match and said that AJ wasn't evil enough. Said he asked him to be more evil. Karrion Kross released I still haven't watched it. I'm going to once we're done here. He released a social media video shortly after or during the Logan Paul AJ segment, and it was supposedly very good. And we talked about it. I've been digging what he's doing.
He's kicking it up.
Yeah, we had Blackhawk, one of our great supporters. He was He was in the chat a bunch. He said that Dom is so much better than he was even a year ago when we were talking about Dom. He said it would be cool if they could get Samoa Joe to come back to TNA for one last match with AJ when we were talking about that. That would be cool if the two companies could put their whatever aside and be like, let's do that. That'd be fun.
That'd be huge.
Matthew popped in. He said, so Punk lost again. And he said, who do you think is going to side with Rhodes? I'm assuming at WrestleMania. And my assumption would be Stone Cold Steve Austin, baby.
Yeah. We'll get into that maybe next week, but
we'll have time for that. Matthew also said his first time here and that he loves our insight. So thank you very much for that, Matthew. He said he also wants to see Bianca versus Io, but thinks Rhea will be in their corner. I think Rhea is going to be inserted in that match and it'll be a triple threat. And then Blackhawk said, you guys have been killing it. W's galore. And he says he thinks Charlotte is going to win at Mania, but then Tiffy will win it back at SummerSlam. That's what he said, Blackhawk. So
see that. Guys,
he also said they should have a Paul Heyman on a pole match.
Yes.
A custody of Paul Heyman ladder match. So maybe we do Paul Heyman on a pole.
I'd watch that.
Put him,
Did you watch
suspend him in a cage again.
Yeah.
And then whoever wins gets Paul Heyman's his advocacy.
Did you watch that Judy Bagwell on a forklift match?
I think at the time I did, but I remember absolutely zero of it. But I was watching both shows at that time. But that was when WCW, they did not last long after that.
I've tried to watch
long after that
2000 WCW, and it is not great.
It's bad, dude.
Anybody that's comparing AEW to WCW 2000,
they're morons.
No offense, WCW.
No offense, but all the offense. You are wrong.
Lots of offense. You're being
you are wrong. Okay, there you go.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you all for your comments. We are always psyched to hear from you. Always psyched to see. It still just boggles my mind that we have hundreds of people watching us at any given moment. That's such a privilege. It's so fun. It's such a privilege to be able to sit with you for an hour and just talk about wrestling. It's fun for me more than anything else. I can just fun to chat with a buddy about pro wrestling. So what do you have coming up? Do you have anything that you want to focus on, tell people about? What's going on?
So tomorrow morning, every Tuesday. So I do a lot of my wrestling stuff over at lovewrestling.ca. And tomorrow morning, every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 10 a.m., I go live with my pal Drew Nicholas for Firmly Love Wrestling. So tomorrow we talk. It's firmly WWE on Tuesdays and it's firmly AEW on Thursdays. So we'll be talking about SmackDown, Raw, kind of diving into the week that was in WWE. And then on Thursdays, we do the same for AEW. And then Thursday nights, me and my main man Pluggo, we do the flagship show over at Love Wrestling. We're on episode 199 this week, bro.
Wow.
So next week is episode 200 of Between Two
coming
Beards
Congratulations.
on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time over on Love Wrestling. And then you can follow me at JPJ Loves Gaming everywhere. I do have a Twitch. I have been playing WWE 2K on stream. Like I said, at the end of the week, MLB The Show comes out and then takes over my life. But we'll be playing a lot of that, playing games. Not great. I would say I'm an average to slightly above average video game player.
Sure.
But it's a good time. We talk wrestling. We talk sports. We talk
about
a lot of fun.
And that's all
and I love it. Yeah. So we have a good time. I'm building a good community over there. So come hang out. Come give a follow. And that's where you can find me. And I do watch-alongs on my channel for Raw and SmackDown. So before I hop on here with your lovely face, I'm on the channel doing watch-alongs with a couple pals. My pal Peggy, who is in the chat, and Josh. And then we do one for NXT as well. So
you're a busy guy.
I do a lot. I try to do a lot. While I have the time, I try to do a lot. I'm really trying to find my footing and kind of make my space in this space because I very much appreciate everybody and kind of what's been opened for me so far. So
you're doing a good job. You're one of the most likable people I've ever met. So
thank you. I appreciate
honored to share this space with you. I'm honored to share it with all of you guys. You can find me on Twitter/X at Western Rebel. And we'll see you next week in the afternoon, yeah?
Yeah, I think we will. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having afternoon shows. Yeah.
Bye-bye.